My name is Kerttu Palginem. I represent the EU Horizon project Colorful Crafts. And thank you for this cooperation with Estonian Fashion Festival. Thank you, Kei Külats. And we have as guest today Laura Seppälä, who is a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Lapland at the Faculty of Art and Design. And she's going to present about sustainability and responsibility, case studies, and natural dyes and outdoor clothing. So I'm just gonna give the floor to Laura, and she can start with her presentation.
Thank you, Kerttu. Let's see when I get this shared. And can you see well?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we are ready then. Hello, everybody, and warmly welcome to my presentation about sustainability and responsibility. Today we have two case studies, outdoor clothing and natural dyes. And as Kerttu mentioned, my name is Laura Seppälä, and I have done two PhDs. The first one focused on co-design and the second one on sustainability. So that's the topic of today. And my background is in clothing design. I am currently working as a postdoctoral researcher at the Colorful Crafts project at the University of Lapland. The Colorful Crafts project is funded by the EU Horizon program, and it's a multidisciplinary and consists of the University of Helsinki, University of Lapland, University of Tartu, and University of Leeds, KIK IRPA, which is Royal Institute for Cultural Heritage in Belgium, and Pili Bio in France. And this research combines the cultural traditions of dyes and textiles with the development of novel dyeing techniques. And my job is to interview students and teachers in a craft and design education of natural dyes. And another task is to facilitate co-design process with the Future Scone. So this is a little bit about my background. And today we have this 30 minutes, and we will cover the topics of environmental, social, economic sustainability and have these case studies. And the scientific basis of this lecture is based on my PhD research, which was responsibility and sustainability in the outdoor clothing industry, based on the website communications of the brands in 2009 and 2021. And pictures of these presentations are from these outdoor brands' websites. And the purpose of this lecture is to give a broad view about sustainability and responsibility and have a comprehensive picture. And there are these case studies of natural dyes and outdoor clothing. And what is important is to think about when we think about sustainability and we have a bad conscience about it, is that the clothing is a basic human need. We need clothes. And from sustainability perspective, there are many opportunities to improve its life cycle. But anyway, like we need clothing, so that's the bottom line. And sustainability is an essential topic in all industries, but outdoor sports sector is no exception. And outdoor clothing users often like nature and expect sustainability. And sustainability requirements are exceptionally high for technical outdoor clothing, which is more complex than leisure clothing and has long supply chain. Then there is a need for change. The textile, apparel and fashion industries are among the most harmful industries in the world. And the concepts of slow fashion and sustainable fashion are gaining increasing popularity. And synthetic dyes harm aquatic life, cause cancer and other health effects, and lower water quality. Therefore, it is essential to look for solutions, and natural dyes are promising alternatives. And we can look these natural dyes today. And there is also a growing demand for natural dyes. Then if we look at the sustainable development, it's not like a new idea. It's almost a 40 years old term. And it was first published and defined in a World Commission on Environment and Development's report, Our Common Future. And it says that sustainable development is development that meets the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And even this is really basic thing. I wanted to have this here in the beginning because this is what it's all about. And what is very important is this is notion from Patagonia in their website that everything we make has an impact on the planet and also people. And here are some of the issues of environmental and social challenges. There is a climate change, water problems like using the water and also the wastewater, chemicals, overexploitation of land, transport, offices and retail stores, and waste. And some of the social challenges are trafficking and forced labor, child labor, wages and benefits, working hours, freedom of association, health and safety, and discrimination, including harassment and abuse. And these are some of the problems that the textile industry and clothing industry is facing. Then I have pondered the factors that affect the sustainability in outdoor clothing, and I have developed this concept which includes design, all aspects of sustainability, and Victor Papanek's function matrix. And obviously the design has a big influence and all the 4 sustainability categories. And here you can see the Papanek 6-sided function matrix, where is a method which means how the garment is constructed, association, how peers and other people associate the garment and how you associate with other people, aesthetics, need, consequences, and use. And here you can see the categories of sustainability. And there is like basically 4 categories, but nowadays cultural sustainability is often regarded underneath the social sustainability, and environmental and social sustainability with economic sustainability form this triple bottom line. And here you can see the life cycle of one garment. It starts from the fiber and it's made to the fabric and all the processes to the make to the garment. And then there is the stages of use and and then also like an end of life. So it's very important to think about this life cycle of garment, and these 4 sustainability categories apply for this whole life cycle. And here, just to remind you, is the 4 layers of outdoor clothing system. There is a base layer, mid layer, outer layer, and thermal layer. And these are really technical clothing with lots of features. Then I would like to show you something from the history. 15 years ago, sustainability began to emerge in the outdoor industry. And I created these collages from pictures 2009 and communications of the outdoor brands. So basically the web pages. And you can already see in the Arc'teryx web pages environmental statement and manufacturing statement. And these were really forerunners at the time. And I had these 12 companies in my PhD thesis research, and these were the only ones that mentioned the sustainability. And on the right hand side you can see the Columbia's example where they also show the corporate responsibility. And here are some of the other examples, and the longevity and durability is one of the important key themes. And what is really interesting that when we think about the world today is that Haglöf had already 15 years ago this notion that it's time for action and we are running out of the planet. Okay, so now we will look more closely to environmental sustainability. And sustainable design is getting popular. More brands claim to do sustainable design. And many companies have also web pages for sustainable design. And I wanted to show you something interesting or read you something interesting. Fjällräven has created 9 principles of sustainable design. And the first principle is that design with you in mind. So basically it means that you need to always consider the end user. And the second one is the function and ease of use. And it's very important that the outdoor clothing and clothing works for the use it's meant to. Then it's the simplicity, and it's very important to avoid unnecessary complexity. Then low material impact, and that means that raw materials used are having a less impact. Then there is material longevity and efficiency. And this durability comes very many times in this presentation because it's very important that the garments last long time and save the resources of new garments. Then there is emotional longevity, and it's very important that you the consumer and the user has an emotional attached to the garment and they take care of it. Then it's recyclability, and we will talk some recycling more later. 8 is the biochange a good thing, and if it works, it's very good idea to remain the things and have a design classics. And then 9 is tried and tested, and it's very important that it's tested in the field and also in the laboratory, and it really lasts has the durability to use. And here is Hovi's statement that the best thing we can do for the environment is make the stuff last longer. And same also notion durability from Millet. And it's very important that the longevity of the garments. And here, this is Fjällräven page again. And it's very important to combine these things, that there is a sustainable design, there are sustainable materials and sustainable production, and that all together makes this sustainability. And then notion of the reporting, and this has completely changed in 15 years what I have been researching this topic. That when I started there was very few sustainability reports, but now they are getting more common, and Global Reporting Initiative is the standard for sustainability reporting. So if you are looking at the sustainability reports, it's very good to look at if there is some standard how it's made. Then there's a few words about manufacturing. And some of the best companies already announce their suppliers. And when you are doing your work as a designer, it's very important that you know your suppliers. And also I really appreciate it that they announce them and people can do their research. Then this is Patagonia's webpage again, and they state that our industry has a carbon issues, and clothing production has a significant impact on the global carbon footprint. Clothing production contributes to carbon emissions in several ways. Firstly, manufacturing is really energy intensive. Textile production, spinning, weaving, dyeing and finishing consumes huge amounts of electricity, often from fossil fuels. Secondly, the global nature of fashion means that raw materials, fabrics and finished clothing travel thousands of kilometers. Waste, overproduction and use and washing are also problems for the carbon footprint. Then we will look some of the materials, and here like they are claiming also sustainable materials, and some of the issues both like a natural and synthetic fibers and what you need to know about the materials. And organic cotton is like growing its popularity, and it's grown without synthetic pesticides, herbicides or genetically modified seeds, using natural farming methods that protect soil health and biodiversity. And some key benefits of organic cotton are no toxic chemicals. Sometimes it's more water efficient if it's used only rainwater. It's healthier for soil, and it supports farmers' well-being because it doesn't have the toxics, and it lowers the carbon footprint, and it's better for biodiversity. And there is this standard called Global Organic Textile Standard, GOTS, which aims to establish globally recognized criteria for organic textiles. Then if you look at the synthetic fibers, very big problem with the synthetic fibers is microplastics. And microplastics are tiny plastic particles, typically less than 5 millimeters in size, and about the size of sesame seed or smaller. They pollute the environment, especially oceans, rivers, and the soil. And there are two types of microplastics. First, primary microplastics that are intentionally manufactured as small plastics, for example, microbeads in cosmetics, and secondary microplastics that result of breakdown of larger plastic items such as bags, bottles, and clothing. Clothes are made from synthetic fibers like polyester and polyamide shed microplastics when washed. And these tiny fibers go down the drain and often bypass wastewater filters and end up in rivers and oceans. And there is this EU strategy for sustainable circular textiles that promotes better textile design that minimizes the microplastic. And it can be also minimized in the design stage by choosing right fabrics, and also in a washing stage. Then we have textile recycling, and textile recycling has some environmental benefits because it reduces landfill waste, and tons of clothing end up in the landfills every year. And recycling keeps textiles out of waste stream and supports circular economy. And it also saves resources. Making new clothes requires water, energy, and raw materials like cotton or oil for polyester. Recycling uses far fewer resources. So it's very good alternative for those fibers that can be recycled. And here is the example of Northway's recycling program. And its idea is that when the customer returns to the clothing, they get the reward, and they can maybe place it on the new product. So basically it's not a perfect, but it can encourage people to bring the garments back and avoid the landfill. Then we have durable water repellency, that is DWR treatments, that fluorocarbons are also known perfluorinated chemicals or PFCs. And fluorocarbons are man-made chemicals that are commonly used in outdoor clothing. They are used for water repellency and oil and stain resistance in hard conditions. So basically what makes the garment water resistant. but there is really big problem with fluorocarbons, environmental persistence, and they don't break down easily in the nature, and they have been found in the soil, water, wildlife, and even remote areas like Arctic, and they have found durable these fluorocarbons even in polar bears. And there is this bioaccumulation that they build up in the animals and humans over time and cause health risks. Okay, and then there is these commercial companies, and one of them is a Bluesign. And Bluesign is a sustainability certification system focused on the textile industry, ensuring that the products are safe for the environment, workers, and consumers. And core idea of the Bluesign is to eliminate harmful substances from the beginning of the manufacturing process and control standards for environmentally friendly and safe production. And which is important with the Bluesign is that, as I mentioned, they do the work in the beginning, and when the brands buy the garments with a Bluesign certification, they know that the restricted substance list is really followed. Then we will look at natural dyes, because synthetic dyes have lots of harmful chemicals, and natural dyes are one of the alternatives, but they don't fit well yet for the synthetic fabric that well. So basically they are more suitable for natural fabrics. Interest in the potential applications of natural dyes is growing as a result of environmental issues. And natural dyes are often safer and more environmentally friendly option than synthetic dyes. However, one must be cautious that natural dyes, because of, for example, some plants and mushrooms are poisonous. By natural colors are meant colors that are derived from the plants, fungi, bark, lichens, algae, insects, and minerals. And different plant parts such as stems, leaves, flowers, roots, bark, berries, fruits, and cones can be utilized for fabric printing, dyeing, pigment manufacture, and other processes depending on the season. After being developed in the middle of the 19th century, synthetic dyes quickly replaced the natural dyes. And now, in the beginning of the 21st century, natural dyes are coming back and reaching popularity in the textile industry. Here you can see some of the issues with natural dyes, and they are chemicals, water, energy, land use, and disposal, and we will look this closer. Some of them natural dyes don't attach to the fabric very well without the mordants, and mordants are needed to attach the color to the textile and increase the color fastness. And some of the mordants used in the modern recipes are alum, tartar, and iron sulfate. And this mordanting can be done in 3 ways: pre-mordanting, simultaneous mordanting, and post-mordanting. So before the dyeing, same time with the dyeing, or after dyeing. And these natural dyes don't contain harmful chemicals because they are straight from the nature, but mordants pose a problem. And there are lots of these old mordants like a blue vitriol and tin that have been used in previous recipes in the old days, but they are toxic to the humans and wildlife, and they are therefore no longer recommended. So mordants and chemicals were the first thing. Then the water is the second thing, that because the dye needs the water to penetrate the fabric and dye the fabric, so clothing production significantly impacts water consumption problems. Water plays also a vital role in natural dyeing, and it's essential in every stage. The wet processing of the fabric encompasses the pre-treatment of the textile, dyeing, and post-processing procedures. Additionally, both mordanting and dye extraction depends on water to allow the mordant and dye to penetrate the fiber. Then we have energy, and dye extraction and fixation often require heating, which increases the energy footprint of dyeing. And dyeing at low temperatures enhances energy efficiency. Similar dyeing results can be achieved at low temperatures provided that supporting methods such as ultrasound are applied simultaneously. Also, simultaneous mordanting saves energy. And then there is a land use, and there is a danger of monoculture, that the same plant is grown at the same place too long. And one good idea with dye plants is that you pick them from the places, or they are picked from the places on marginal lands or forests that cannot be used for the food production. And using agricultural land is one of the limitations of natural dyes. So therefore the first choice is better. And then disposal. Natural dyes are generally harmless and biodegradable and break down into nature. However, metallic salt mordants present a challenge. Nature's own mordants offer a solution. High-tannin plants serve as a natural mordant as they have absorbed aluminum, iron, and copper. Then I wanted to show you some of the examples of dyes, and the first one is a fiber set that connects local farmers, dyers, and designers to create regionally based regenerative textile economies. So this is worth of looking at further. Then there is a Dyeco that uses supercritical carbon dioxide dyeing technology for waterless dyeing, reducing water waste, reducing resource waste. And it's very important because the water use is one of the key issues. So this is avoiding the water waste. And then the next example, this was the Dyeco. And then here is the next example is the Stella McCartney case that has a high-end designer that has adopted the restricted substance list and sustainability program. And Pilipia is a French company that is also collaboration in this our Color for Crafts project, and they create natural dyes through fermentation, cutting down pollution. And this is really interesting. I really like this idea that Puma has made a collaboration with a living color fabric that fades in a use. And when you run with the top or the shorts, they will fade in the use, and it will be your trophy how much you have exercised. And I think that's a brilliant idea, that we think differently the color fastness requirements and what we really want from the color. And the last example is Patagonia, and they have made experimenting with the natural light clothing, and it's very interesting blog, please, what they have written about it. Then some of the durability is key for the sustainability, so the testing is very important, and testing in the laboratory and both in the field. And then some of the materials still, there is this down products and merino wool, and the problem with the down is force feeding and plucking the feathers from the living birds. And also a merino sheep problem is the mulesing, when the insects, because of the insects, some parts of the sheep's bottom are cut away without any anesthesia, and that's a problem. But there are luckily these two standards, responsible down standard and responsible wool standard. And responsible wool standard is voluntary global certification that ensures that wool comes from farms and with a progressive approach to the land management and from sheep that have been treated responsibly. And some of the key factors of the responsible wool standard is freedom for hunger and thirst, discomfort, pain, injury and disease, express their normal behavior, and fear and distress. And then responsible down standard is certification that ensures a good life for the birds. And there is also 5 points that there is no live plucking, no force feeding, traceability, animal welfare, and independent certification that can be monitored. Then I was talking about washing and care when talking about microplastics, and it's very important to use washing bag and other items to prevent microplastics getting to the water. But what is very important in these outdoor companies, they give really good washing and product care directions. And then this is really interesting, like Houdini has made this clothing library that you can borrow your outdoor gear and do your trip, and then you can return it and maybe borrow something else. And these rental services are becoming a bigger thing, and clothing libraries in general. So it's very interesting to think that you don't own the clothing yourself. And then we will look at the social sustainability. And when individuals handle hazardous textile dyes and finishes, environmental issues and unsafe working conditions are interconnected. Key factors for social sustainability include focus on organizations' human resources strategy. And then cultural sustainability means that development of the should align with people's cultures and values. And for example, widespread adoption of Western clothing may render traditional national garments obsolete. And here are some of the key aspects of social sustainability and natural dyeing. And these are fair wages, heritage, and health and well-being. Here you can see some of the organizations that do the work and social sustainability, and there is a Fairtrade International, World Fair Trade Organization, Fairtrade Certified, and SA 8000 standard that are helping with the social sustainability work. And as a designer, it's really good to look at them as well. And Fairtrade contributes to the decent livelihoods, gender equality, health and safety, and consumer awareness. And here is very good example of Colombia's social sustainability program, that they have a HER project which includes her health, her finance, and her respect, and it teaches women these issues about their own health, their own financial situation, and also helps with the harassment and abuse. Then living wage is the thing that means that it's paid in a way that people can get food, shelter, healthcare, education, and transportation, and it's bigger than minimum wage. And it's very important to look at the suppliers who are paying the living wage for their employees. And here are some of the living wage associations, and one of them is a Fairwear Foundation, and here is their webpage. And what they do, they have 8 standards of Fairwear, and that means that employment is freely chosen. There is no exploitation of child labor, no discrimination in the employment. There is freedom of association and the right collective bargaining. There is payment of living wage, reasonable working hours, safe and healthy working conditions, and legally binding employment relationship. So basically, in a summary, responsibility and sustainability are broad areas that often require commitment of different teams within a company, and also like a designers, like a consideration in many cases. And the ethical requirements of companies are constantly increasing, and as a result, there are growing differences between companies. In 2009, when I started my research, it was enough that a company could claim that they are sustainable if they were doing something, but now like a broad range of things are required. And here are the links of the pictures and the companies. And thank you very much. And I would like to thank you inviting me. And I can see that the 30 minutes is a really short time. So this was lots of things in 30 minutes, but I hope I made some sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you very much, Laura. And we have exceeded the time limit. Do we have time for a quick question, or we shall proceed?
Yes, we have. If there is someone who wants to ask something additionally. Seems like we are full of knowledges right now, and everything seems to be clear.
So thank you so much, Estonian Fashion Festival. Thank you, Laura. And I just wanted to say that this event was recorded and is going to be transcribed and going to be available on our Colorful Crafts YouTube channel as well. So you can get back to it and look up the different details that Laura presented. So thank you very much, and have a nice time, designers.
Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye.